And this way, we can be on it again in affirming the right of women and girls to sex-based.
The Italian Open shut out all 2 million of them. Alex Eala's massive Filipino army faced last-minute scheduling and a venue far too small to accommodate their numbers. Tennis legends are furious, and Rome offers no justification. Eala dismantled a top 45 player, crushed a top 33 opponent, then pushed world number 2 Rybakina in such a fierce battle that Eala's first serve accuracy actually exceeded the Australian Open champions. All of this unfolded over just 5 days. The Italian Open witnessed every moment from a cramped 500-seat stadium. What makes this infuriating is that Rome knew better. They saw the Australian Open chaos in January when Eala was relegated to Court 6. They witnessed fans waiting over an hour in endless queues. They saw thousands locked outside while tennis legends exploded. Navratilova blasted it on live television as a catastrophic error. Davenport erupted immediately afterward. Then Madrid delivered the identical insult in April, banishing Eala to Court 5 in round 2, where she competed with virtually empty stands. The Italian Open then released their schedule at the final hour this week. Rome houses 38,000 Filipino residents. The 2 million-strong Filipino army had zero opportunity to secure tickets for a 500-seat court announced without warning. Shutting out a fan base this enormous transcends incompetence at this stage. 3 consecutive tournaments transform this into deliberate policy. Subscribe now, because this pattern intensifies before any resolution appears. The sequence begins in Melbourne, January 19, 2026. Alex Eala steps onto Court 6 at the Australian Open for her main draw premiere. The queue snaking from that court stretched nearly to Rod Laver Arena. Fans had endured waits exceeding an hour. Thousands never passed through the entrance.
So Emma needs to be in charge. She's old enough to know what she should be doing and surround.
They gathered outside watching massive screens that reached maximum capacity themselves. Every seat inside Court 6 was occupied. The courtside bar, baseline ledges, standing areas completely gone, and Court 6 at Melbourne Park represents no modest venue. It still proved inadequate. Tennis journalist Jose Morgado witnessed the chaos unfolding live. His reaction was instant. Placing Eala on Court 6 is simply idiotic. Those were his precise words, not harsh, not excessive, just completely accurate. Ben Rothenberg, among the most respected voices covering the WTA circuit, identified court placement as his primary worry the instant he saw that morning's order of play. By the time both journalists addressed it, the harm was irreversible. Fans remained locked outside. The match had begun. The opportunity vanished. What transpired on Tennis Channel after the match amplified everything. Martina Navratilova, winner of 18 Grand Slam singles championships, someone who has witnessed every iteration of this sport, went on air and confronted it head-on. Tournament organizers must consider more carefully where players originate and what the actual supporter base represents here. Melbourne and Australia host a tremendous Filipino audience, so remember that for future scheduling decisions. Lindsay Davenport, the 1999 Wimbledon champion, was more direct still. She definitely deserved placement on a major show court. She's undoubtedly the most celebrated female athlete from the Philippines, certainly among the most famous individuals from their entire sporting landscape, and countless fans were simply waiting for admission. 2 champions, national broadcast, unmistakable message, remember this for next time. The Australian Open recognized the problem. The tennis community continued forward. Everyone presumed the lesson was internalized. It was not. Madrid, April 24, 2026. Eala defeats Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova in round 1 at the Arantxa Sanchez Stadium, among the premier courts at the Mutua Madrid Open. Her Filipino supporters packed the stands. The atmosphere matches exactly what you'd anticipate from a player whose Instagram reach approaches 1 million, more than doubling Jessica Pegula, Madison Keys, and Amanda Anisimova combined. The crowd roars. The energy radiates. Eala prevails decisively, 6-3, 6-3. Then Madrid released the round 2 assignments. Eala versus Elise Mertens, the 19th seed. The court designation, Court 5. Not a showcase venue, not remotely close. The identical tournament that featured her on its grandest stage in round 1 quietly relocated her to among its most confined spaces 1 round later. Filipino supporters who had organized around that match, who had purchased tickets assuming she would compete on a court capable of accommodating them, arrived to discover a fraction of available space. The outcome was a 6-2, 6-1 defeat. Mertens was surgical, but the atmosphere surrounding that court bore no resemblance to what Eala had experienced 24 hours earlier. The energy that propelled her through round 1 simply disappeared. Smaller courts impact more than fan experience. They affect the competitor. Eala has discussed publicly what crowd support means to her momentum during challenging match moments. On Court 5 in Madrid against a top 20 player, she had virtually nobody vocal enough to shift energy when Mertens seized control. That occurred 3 weeks before Rome. So when the Italian Open released its schedule at the final moment this week, and when that schedule confirmed Alex Eala would contest her round of 128 match at the Nicola Pietrangeli Stadium, the statistics revealed the story immediately. The Pietrangeli accommodates 3,500 spectators. The main Campo Centrale at Foro Italico holds 10,400. That represents no minor distinction. That separates a sold-out theater from a sold-out arena. For a player whose pre-tournament Australian Open press conference attracted 196,000 views, nearly double Novak Djokovic's numbers, and exceeding Carlos Alcaraz's by more than 6 times, assignment to the Pietrangeli sends a message. Whether the Italian Open intended one or not, that's what it becomes. And supporters who wanted inside that 500-seat venue, the schedule appeared with virtually no advance notice. Rome houses 38,000 documented Filipinos, the second largest non-Italian community throughout the city. The broader Filipino population across Italy ranges between 108,000 and 165,000 individuals depending on sources. These aren't tourists flying from Manila. These are residents, people with careers and families and constrained time to reorganize their week around a match announcement arriving hours before the first ball. Some managed it, many couldn't. Those who did appeared waving Philippine flags and chanting loud enough to fill whatever space the Pietrangeli provided them.
And it's brought me blessings in terms of that sense of community. Everywhere I go, ang dami-daming Pinoy na.
Those who couldn't watched from wherever they located a screen. This part makes the situation genuinely indefensible. Eala didn't merely survive in Rome, she obliterated her opening opponent. Frech, ranked 45th globally, captured exactly 0 games in the opening set. 0. Eala bajled her in 24 minutes and finished the match 6-0, 3-6, 6-4, despite fighting back from 1-3 down in the decider. That performance, her inaugural Italian Open main draw victory, unfolded before 3,500 seats while the 400-seat Campo Centrale hosted other matches. Round 2 followed identically. Wang Xinyu, the 31st seed and Olympic silver medalist, received a first-round bye. Eala earned her position through battle. When they clashed on the Pietrangeli again, Eala recovered from 0-3 down in the first set and secured it 6-4. The second set finished 6-3. This marked her career's first back-to-back victories at a WTA 1000 clay event, a career pinnacle witnessed by maximum 3,500 people, while the main court conducted business elsewhere. Only when Eala faced Elena Rybakina, world number 2 and reigning Australian Open champion, did the Italian Open relocate her to a larger stage. The BNL d'Italia Arena, the tournament's redesigned secondary court, now accommodates over 7,000 spectators following its 2026 renovation that hosted Sunday's match. The decision to upgrade court assignment wasn't about Alex Eala's supporter base. It concerned Elena Rybakina's ranking. The Italian Open essentially informed Eala's supporters that their player receives the premier court when the opponent merits it, not when they do. The match itself wasn't the lopsided affair the scoreline suggests. Rybakina won 6-4, 6-3. That sounds comfortable. It wasn't. Eala's first serve percentage reached 67%. Rybakina's hit 62%. Eala actually outserved the Australian Open champion on first deliveries. Rybakina's advantage came through return points. She captured 47% throughout the match. One service break per set separated a straight sets victory from something far more complex for world number 2. Rybakina had specifically prepared for Eala beforehand, arranging practice sessions with a left-handed player to simulate her upcoming challenge. That demonstrates Rybakina's respect for Eala entering the match. The Italian Open's court assignments conveyed a different narrative. Now examine what's actually occurring across this sport. Alex Eala is 20 years old. She's ranked 42nd globally. She commands nearly 1 million Instagram followers, more than double most players ranked inside the top 20. Her pre-match press conference views surpassed Djokovic. Her post-match videos trend worldwide. The WTA established an entirely new tournament in the Philippines, the Philippine Women's Open, specifically because of interest she generates. Jessica Pegula, world number 5, described competing against Eala's crowd at last year's Miami Open as genuinely overwhelming. I wondered what on earth was happening. Where did all these people appear from? That's a top 5 player describing the experience of encountering an Eala crowd. This isn't a niche story about a mid-ranked player receiving unfortunate court assignments. This concerns a player whose commercial value to every tournament she enters is measurably massive, and whose fan base faces systematic failure through scheduling decisions by the very tournaments profiting from her presence. Every Filipino fan purchasing an Italian Open, Madrid Open, or Australian Open ticket because Alex Eala appears in the draw contributes money to that tournament's revenue. The tournament then assigns her to a court incapable of holding her generated crowd. releases the schedule too late for supporters to plan, and moves her to a bigger stage only when a higher-seeded opponent forces the matter. The Australian Open had Navratilova and Davenport condemn it in January. Madrid had tennis media document Court 5 in April. Rome added a last-minute schedule release in May atop the wrong court assignment. 3 tournaments, 3 variations of identical decisions, each costing thousands of Filipino fans the opportunity to watch a player they traveled to see. Eala turned to the crowd after defeating Frech in round 1 and said, "Salamat, thank you." Those who heard it were fortunate. The thousands unable to enter a 500-seat venue in a city where 38,000 Filipinos reside never heard it at all. That's not a footnote. That's the story. She's heading to the French Open next, beginning May 24th in Paris. Roland Garros will mark her second French Open main draw appearance. The question isn't whether her army will travel, they will. The Filipino diaspora follows this woman across continents without hesitation. The question is whether Roland Garros will examine what Melbourne, Madrid, and Rome did and actually learn something from it, or whether they'll release a last-minute schedule and assign her to a court built for 4,000 people and watch identical chaos repeat itself while another group of tennis experts prepares to criticize it. The Italian Open banned no one. No official statement was issued, no policy was written. What occurred was subtler than that. A schedule released too late for residents to respond. A court assigned too small for the crowd she attracts. A fan base that drove, flew, and rearranged their lives to watch their player, only to encounter a wall of logistics that never needed to exist. That's what blocking resembles when it doesn't come with a sign on the door. 3 tournaments have now made identical choices. The pattern is documented. The experts have spoken. The numbers are public. At some point, the question stops being whether the Italian Open made a mistake, and becomes whether anyone running these tournaments is actually listening. The French Open is 2 weeks away, and if history repeats, we'll return here having this exact conversation again.